Hi, and welcome back to Nikki Does. And today we're going to be talking about the Prusa. We're going to go with the North American Prusa throughout this video. And this is a Mark III Plus. And if you haven't figured out, unfortunately, I screwed up the audio on the recording, so I'm going to do a voiceover here. It's fairly bone stock, a couple of minor changes with one big changes. We've got the Hulk Green Lantern style add-ons like this belt tensioner, some super cool clips. The EINC control board is in this nifty case that makes it easy to get into from outside instead of having to bend around to look inside. I think this is quite the improvement. And of course, the Octopi in another lime green thing. Now, the biggest upgrade is for last, and that is we've got an E3D, well, they all have E3D hot ends, but we've got an E3D Revo hot end on here, which is pretty sweet. Hopefully, I'm going to show that in just a second. There we go. The Revo 40 watt with the Thermistor 104 something or other. As soon as we get to focus here, we'll find out. I guess we never focused on that one. Well, sorry about that, but what we're going to do is follow the email. We've been on email a number of times with E3D support because no matter what we do, we get this TM error going on all the time. And there's a GitHub issue that's been filed with Prusa for their firmware, which I'll link in the description. And there's a thermal management error in there. And what I'm going to do is follow an instruction from an email from E3D support. And they've given me quite a few steps that I should go through to document what's happening here and show that my stuff is correct and that something else is wrong. And this video is designed specifically to prove that certain conclusion. So if we go to info, one thing about the E3D hot end, it's the Revo rather hot end, it's kind of a pain because once you install it, you're going to have to do a lot of work. You've got to make sure that your firmware updates are not Prusa updates, but they're the Prusa E3D version. So here's the email, and this is back from mid-February of 2024. And what we're going to have to do is provide a picture of the heater core serial number, which we can do. We're also going to be verifying that connectors are good, both by pulling on wires and by taking highly magnified photos of those, which we also can do. So there's the serial number label. That is a cool little hot end because it does come off separately. You can take the nozzle out. When you take the schnoozly nozzle out, the heater core assembly comes out all at once. So number 2, we're going to check the connectors. Number 3, we're going to provide a resistance indication at 200k ohms, and we've got the ability to measure that really, really well. In fact, we can confirm the multimeter is correct, and we're even going to show that it is live working the way it's supposed to work. So then we've got a second page actually of things to do here. If this was in focus, it'd be really cool. Basically says, set your multimeter to manual range 200k ohm and measure the thermistor's output and also measure the ambient temperature to verify. And I've had this thing off for quite some time, so there's no ambient issues. Take some photos of the end of the Molex. I forgot the name of that just for the moment, but the Molex connector. And up above, it's also telling us that we should be verifying the heater element. It says number 6, gently pull on the wires on the thermistor heater connectors, make sure they're cool. Number 7, share pictures of your setup, which we're doing here quite deeply. So the heater core is 200 ohm range on the multimeter, and we're going to be following that too. So here you get a photo of what good and bad look like. And, when I took a picture of it, you're going to argue that one could argue that it's bad, but I think that's what you get. So pretty likely that that this is not an issue with the connectors. We've only plugged them in. So I think re-looking at this video, I have a feeling that's going to be the conclusion, and I'm going to call that Bulgeschmidt. That is complete and utter Bulgeschmidt, if that's what it comes back as. We're definitely going to go over and above here, verifying that everything works. So you can't really do measurements very well unless you have some kick-ass tools, and I've got some of those here. You can see in the background, I've got a, what are we going to do here? I thought we were going to go to tools, but maybe we won't. I think I was going to turn it on, and then I said, whoop, maybe I shouldn't. So print aborted. So there is a way to reset this thing to factory. You press and hold the spinny button while you turn it on. Hopefully what I'm going to do is show that the firmware is in fact the correct firmware. Probably I'm going to move this there. Nope. This has got to be a fun video. I'm guessing just as much as you are. Thermal mode calibration. That was the new firmware, the newer firmware. I think version 3.1.0 introduced that thermal model, and that's what broke this whole thing. I mean, it's probably cool. The other Prusa printers I have without the E3D Revo work great. So hopefully we're going to go back down to info here and look at the firmware version and make sure that we in fact have the Revo version installed, and it is the latest version. So looks like that's where we're going. 3.13.3-7094. That is the latest as of April 18th, 2024. And you've got to get the Revo version. So let's look at the hash. Bravo Alpha 6 Echo 103 Delta. And then if we go down a little further, we'll see that this is in fact the Revo version. It's the Revo 40 watt, not the Revo 60 watt. So that's what this is. E3D Revo right there in the UI for the INSI board. So I think the next thing, I was going to preheat this thing at one point, and I said, ooh, better not do that because we want to have that thermistor at room temperature, whatever room temperature is, so that our special temperature meter can also record that. Here we're going to do the factory reset. Press and hold, factory reset. So there we go, back to set the language, and we're back with some factory default stuff. It's been a long time since I worked on this, kind of this deep in the Prusa printers. It's been like 4 months since I started this issue. So I know there are some cool other things you can do to reset in different ways and restart all the calibration. There's also a Revo G-code reset that's in the GitHub issue that I'm going to be linking, and I've got that on the SD card that's barely protruding on the left side there, and we're going to see that later on, that I'm actually going to run that G-code to reset. So here is the vintage Fluke 52. This is worth its own video, by the way. I mean, I really should do one of this because this came out before flash memory was a thing, and it actually stores the Celsius versus Fahrenheit settings. There are a couple settings in there that are jumpers on the board that you have to change, but there is a cool flip-flop situation that stores that, even though it's like 1 bit that stores that, even though if you take the battery out. It's really kind of cool. I also have the Fluke probe for this that's all super official, all super good. Certainly not up to date on calibrations, but I've checked it. Here's a Fluke 77.3. So again, you can't do great measurements unless you've got some great equipment or you've got a good metrology lab. I am not a good metrology lab, but I'm close. So I do have the ability to measure ohmage in some pretty good ways. In fact, I've got this IET precision resistance substitutor, and I've actually got 2 of these. This one I've taken apart because I was so curious, and it was already way out of cal. I did buy these brand new for some projects. So you can see the seal's broken, so it's obviously no good anymore. Cal was out as of 2013 rather. So not 1913. So what we're going to do here is set 200 k ohms on that resistance substitutor, plug the meter into it, and see what we get. We're already in the kiloohms manual range, the hundreds of kiloohms manual range. So let's get that in there and see it's 200.0. I mean, can you ask for anything better than that? I am going to diddle around with some of the spinny thumb wheels on there. And, you'll see that it's totally in spec. The thermistor's temperature range is 3%. Its temperature accuracy, rather, is 3%. So even if I'm a little bit off on this, let's be honest, I'm just sort of humble bragging here with this precision resistance substitutor box. It's just a humble brag to show another cool piece of gear that's sitting around in my lab. We should probably get to it, right? I mean, that's what you came here to watch. So here's a good picture of the whole situation. 24.2 degrees C. The E3D Revo hot end is installed right now. It's plugged in. As soon as I unplug it, we're going to get a min temp error on the display here. I'm not sure exactly what I was doing, probably raising the Z because it's awfully close to the bed. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So this is so I can unscrew that E3D hot end, because we're going to take a picture of the serial number of that thing, which is on the label, which is on the back. Here it is, pretty cool. It's got this silicone, I'll call it a rubber band, but it's not, a silicone doohickey that's around the outside of the nozzle, and the schnoozly nozzle is really quite long, so everything comes out as once. There's a spring in there, and then that's the heater core cartridge. So there's the schnoozle with the silicone band, and I can grab that while the nozzle is quite hot, so I don't need a tool, and I don't have to wait till it's cool. That's really one of the big advantages. I can switch nozzles out, I can heat it up and unscrew it so that the filament isn't holding it jammed in there. So let's see here. We're going to be looking at the serial number. I hope we can get it clear enough on the video rather. So it's got a heater, a ceramic heating element, plus the thermistor all buggered together into one little case. Focus. Focus. There we go. 241221-0009. It is the 40 watt, 24 volt, 104 NT-4. You can find the data sheet for the 104 NT-4 on Mauser or any place fine electronics are sold. That data sheet is the one that tells me I should get a 100 kiloohm resistance for 25 degrees C, and we're going to see that. Remember, it's about 24.2 in the room. I have been careful not to touch the ceramic hot end heater core part. I've only touched this thing by the wires. So when we look, we have what, 24.1 in the room, it looks like. What are we going to look at? We're going to look at the, first we're going to talk about the wire, because I think that was the first one to make sure the wires were good. So here we're going to say this, there it is, the blue and white wire. That's the DuPont or 0.1 inch spacing square headers that you plug into. And I've got a DuPont wire here that I'm going to jumper that with. You can see the brown DuPont wire in the background right by the hex screwdriver. And we're going to jumper that, and then we're going to verify the resistance. So I think I do this a little bit off camera. You're going to plug in that jumper wire, and then that is the right one right there. And we try to look inside there, and the pin looks good. Yeah, and you know, if you have some experience, you can feel when this has this kind of gritty metal on metal when you slide a connector together. If they were that worried about conductance in there, they should have used gold-plated pins, not silver tin-plated pins. So I think that's, as I said, Bulgeschmidt, and I think that's okay to just, if that's what it comes back at, I'm going to be super disappointed in E3D and their support if they say, well, the problem is your crimp pins are a little wide. I'll say, you're not being serious here. All right, so I think we're probably going to go back on the tree pod so I have the use of both my hands. Golly, look at that guy. Who is that guy? All right, so I just plugged in that DuPont connector. Now I'm going to spin this around, and let's put the multimeter up there. Got to get a good view of this thing, right? I think we probably went back into auto ranging because we want to see how low can you go on the resistance. So we'll plug into the ends of that connector. I suggest strongly that you always plug into the back side of the connector, not the front. These are needle probes, and I recommend that you plug into the back side of the connector so that you don't mess up the front side. You know, it's tempting to shove that thing in there, but that's not a good idea. We got 0.6, and I know that didn't show. 0.2 was just for the test leads themselves. So sorry about that. I didn't realize that black harness was in the way. It was 0.6 ohms. So the test leads and the connection stuff are like 0.2 of it. So that's 0.4 for that skinny little wire. I'd say it's pretty spot on. I just plugged back in the 2-pin header into the INC, and now we're back to the front. The next step is going to be to measure the heater core and see if that thermistor resistance is what it's supposed to be. And boy, I hope I get a good view of this display. There we go. We're back to kiloohms. I do say kiloohms on purpose. So kilo ohms for anybody who gets all fussy about my pronunciations. We're going to go back to manual range. I'm not touching that, as I said earlier. I think we're at 24.1 degrees C in there right now. 1 second. All right, and we've got like 101.1 in there, and I will show that if I touch it, it'll go right back down. So if we heat that up a little bit to be closer to the 25 C that the 100 ohms is 100 kiloohms is spec'd at, if I touch it for a second, you're going to see it drop immediately. There it is. That's me touching it. And then I let go and it'll go right back up again. So super, super sensitive. The resistance is good. I'm going to barf if anybody says it's the connector pins, but worst case, I guess I do have the tools to pull apart that, I think that's called a microfit. I forgot now. But look at my finger with the connector end jammed into it. I need to drink some water so I have better capillary refill. I am pushing that in there a little bit and saying, yeah, I can feel that metal on metal contact. It is definitely making good contact. And I've got all the tools and extra connectors up there. Another humble brag for the messy workshop. All right, we're done with that for a little bit. Oh, no, we're not, because we have to go back and measure the heater core resistance now. So back to now a different ohm setting, and let's measure that heater core. I think we're going to get about 14 ohms out of that. Let's take a look here. Overload. It's really out of range. Excuse me. I think we just went back to auto ranging. Said whatever. We'll just let it auto range. There we go. Quickly finds it. Thank you, Fluke. 14.6 ohms. No need to go to manual range. That's nonsense also, but all right. Taking a look at what else we're supposed to do here to troubleshoot this thing. And really why I'm going through all this effort is to help solve the problem overall, not just mine. I mean, honestly, my solution to the problem would be to unwind the Revo hot end and just stick well, it's also an E3D hot end, but stick the original hot end back on. So let's see what else we're supposed to do here. Probably be smart if I had the email in front of me. Talking. Yeah. All right, so really we're pulling on the connectors right now to make sure everything's tight. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're pulling on each of the 4 wires. You could argue that it's not crimped in properly, but I just measured with the probes. I just measured the connector itself, not the wire end. So we've just verified that the wire end and the connector are essentially one electrically. More reading. So I'll apologize again that I screwed up the audio on this. Probably I'm taking some close-ups of the connectors. I think I'll do a little view in here to see that the connector pins look like connector pins. And I'm not sure how good this is, but I did look at them and they do look good. And I will pull on those and make sure those are tight. We did do the resistance check from the pin, because we shoved into the backside of that. That's the way the loom is. I clipped the 2 zip ties under there. So we did do the connection from the pin to the pin with the loop back connector. There's my zip tie and my spectacular feet with my toes sticking out. I do like being barefoot. That's my favorite way to roll. So I'm barefoot now. So here we are with our metrology all set up. We should probably clean this up and get back to it here. So I think what we're going to do now is assemble the hot end back in here. So that cool, nifty hot end nozzle goes up in there. I've got my headlamp on. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, I was on the ground too, fixing a fuse in the van. Oh, what a mess. All right. So I'm going to thread that back on, which you can just see how convenient that really is. So I do hope this works. Thread that little doodly back on. Boy, I can't leave a second of airtime dead here, can I? And then we'll plug those two connectors back in. It's pretty obvious which ones connect to which, even though the connectors are identical on them. Not only is one short and one long, but the blue and white stripe wire goes to the thermistor. The black wire goes to the red and white stripe on the heater core. That is the heater. And let's get it powered back up here. Beep, beep, beep. I'll make some sound effects for you. 3.13. Everything's okay. And it's got, I think that's the -R for Revo, by the way, on the version. We're going to do the PID calibration. We're going to do it at 240 because we do print a fair number of hot materials. And this will go forever. So I'm going to pause the recording here. And we're going to fast forward a bit. All right, PID cal 0/5. You'd think it'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of 5, but it's not. So I don't really know what's going on. But PID cal finished. Look at that. And then we're back to the MK3S-R. Okay. Okay, the next thing we're supposed to do is the thermal calibration, the thermal model, TM. So we hit go on that. And if we back out a little bit, we'll see that the this is kind of homing here. And we have to watch out with this. That's the only bad part about that box is if the door is open, the motor hits it, the Y motor, the Z motor rather. And the Z motor will then assume it's home and give a bunch of errors. So pretty minor deal, but still. So here we are, and it's starting the thermal model initial C estimate and stopped, print aborted. Why? Why is that? I have no idea why that is. The screen went blank for a second. I don't know. Why is that? Clear thermal error. We're going to do the reset Revo G code, reset everything that we can. It's going to tell me that the G code is not complete because there's really no part on it. There's no G code to move around and print. So let's continue anyway. I did check the G code on the card and it does match what it's supposed to be. So we just did the reset. We'll reset the whole doodly product. And we're back to the regular old home screen. We got a 42-degree hot end. So it obviously did get a little bit warm. It's cooling down a bit now. And I think right now I'm just frustrated with the whole thing in general. I'm like, why does this work this way? This is kind of ridiculous. I'm going to send this into E3D and have them take a look at it, but I'm running out of patience on this whole game. This is going to be a fail. This video is going to be a fail. This is not like we've solved the problem. This is not a how-to. This is a what the hell. I thank you for watching, and that was Rambly, so we will catch it later. All right, thanks.